if we analyze all these orthographic views, this being a front view and this being a right side view, left, back, top, and bottom, what I really want to do, since I know that all of this fits within a cube, is begin to estimate, where these points are on this object that will help me construct it. So that looks like it's about a quarter of the way. That's about a half. There's nothing up at 3/4 of the way. Let's see, that looks like it's maybe a third. If that's a quarter, this is half. This is somewhere in between. I know that that's probably at a third of the way up. And so I can begin to dissect this looking at thirds and halves. So let me start by sketching a cube. I'm going to make it a little bit shallower on this side. Oops. So slower rate of convergence. And I'm going to make it a little bit steeper on this side, so a faster rate of convergence going towards my left vanishing point. And I'll see a little bit less of this over here. And again, the first thing that I really want to do is make sure this looks proportionally accurate to a cube. And I think that looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is divide this up into halves and thirds. And just for the purposes of demonstration, let's find half again by putting an X in here. That's halfway up. It's also halfway across. So I'll just carry those over. Let's see, let's go ahead and put this in here. And then to find a third, what I can do is draw a line between here and there. That gives me a third, both from top to bottom, as well as a third. This is a third. That should also give me a third over here where I get that intersection point. So I'm just subdividing this. It's a little bit more difficult to see the foreshortening on this face that's closing down, so I'll put in my half. Whoops. And if I carry this over to the side, then where it hits that X, see, this is just me working out some geometry. If this is a third here, and then I carry that over to this diagonal, that will give me a third moving over in this direction. And all this construction before I really even have started to look at my object over here. Because in fact, what I really need, I know that I can find this point. That's on that is this point right here in a top view. This point is also in that top view, and it's a quarter of the way over. It's not halfway over or a third of the way over. And I can find that quarter by putting in another X. And so there's a quarter of the way over, and I'm just going to estimate this one back here. And so let me find these points. Quarter of the way over and a quarter of the way up. And I'm going to also estimate this. So again, I'm looking for this point right here, quarter of the way over, quarter of the way up. And then that comes out. If I look for this point, I've got this raised area and I've got an angle that goes all the way up to my halfway mark. So I've just drawn this line in, which is also that line. Now, let's see, I want to find this point, which is this point, which again, it's a quarter of the way back. I don't have my quarter drawn in here, but I can actually use this intersection right here. This should go through it, but I can pull that quarter of the way down. and bring that point back down to here. And so this line right here is going to be that line. And if I'm looking at this correctly, let's see, this is on that front face. There is this corner. That corner is right here. And so I've got one portion of the front of this cube, basically this drawn in. And that's mirrored over across to the other side. So if I want to, I could carry this over to there and find that quarter point over. That's the mirror of that line. Look at how different the character of that mirrored line is on the far side compared to the front side. And then that, of course, would come back over. I'm not going to see it, but basically I'd have something like that in there. All right, let's go with, well, let's look at these surfaces right here. So they cut in from a top view in the middle of my cube, which the middle of my cube is right here, somewhere in there. I'm jumping off that line that I think I didn't have quite correct, and it's going to be going straight back towards that right vanishing point. I'm basically drawing in a line right there, and then this cuts over, and let's see, is that a quarter of the way? That's a quarter of the way. So I can take this quarter point and draw it along my ground plane, and where that intersects, that's going to be this point right here, which is also that point on the bottom. And then so I need to come up. Now here's where it gets a little tricky. What is that? Is that a third of the way up? So from here, again on that point, I can come up 1/3 of the way. And 1/3 of the way, let's see, I have a third there. I have not drawn a third in down here, but it looks like it would be right here. So let me carry that over until it hits right here, and then carry that towards the left vanishing point. So what I'm looking at, what I have just drawn in is a line that exists right here and right here to find that point. So I step back a quarter of the way, I come straight up, and I have now this point right here is that point. So halfway back to the left, halfway back towards the back of my object, and then 1/3 of the way, oop, this is my 1/3 of the way. I have that wrong. That needs to go back. I'm going to draw just a little rectangle in here to where it meets that point, and then I draw that point up. And so in actuality, this, I guess, is that point. So I'll see, let's see if this looks right. That's cutting in. It should be elevating a little bit, so this actually should come to here. So I'll see a wedge shape coming up from there. All right, let's see. So now I've got really all of these surfaces drawn in. Let's try the side. So if I want to find this point, or these 2 points, which would be this one and this one, no, that one, and this is the right side. Let's see, what am I looking at? That should come down, and then it'll go at an angle, but it'll also go at an angle back. So let's find halfway, which would be here. And then let's head over towards my left vanishing point. And how far back will it be? It's back 1/4 of the way, so I can take this, which is 1/4, carry that back, and then it's going to be somewhere on a vertical coming off of that point. So just to kind of show you what I'm doing is that I'm stepping in from the midpoint, and the green represents this line from a top view. It's only right there, so I don't see a line in green. And then what I'm drawing, if I come from that point and go straight up, I'm drawing in a line like this. And where that stops, I don't know. But where it stops should give me this point, which is this point. And so do I have, is that halfway up? That looks like it's halfway up. So how do I get halfway? Well, I come up halfway on my cube from the outside, and then I step towards a left vanishing point, and I get that point right there. Let's see what happens if we just very roughly sketch that in. And then on the bottom, on the ground plane, what I've just drawn in there is this line right here. And I've drawn in this line. And on the ground plane again, let's see, that was halfway, I need to get my 1/4 distance across the right face. And here's the halfway, I've bisected that. This will be 1/4 of the way, another 1/4 of the way back. So 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. And so this line right here, I can sketch in like that. And so maybe I can find this, which comes up, I guess that's 2/3. 2/3 of the way, that's 2/3. I think, I'm not gonna darken this in yet. I'm not 100% sure that that is 2/3, but I think it probably is. 1/3, 2/3. And so I've got this point, I guess that would be it. So I go from this point to there. Really, I think that this line right here should be a continuation of that line. Right? This dotted line right here represents that line. So that should be a straight line from here all the way to there. So some of my calculation is slightly off. All right, so let's find this line back here, which is this. It's gonna go from that 2/3 of the way up back to this back corner. And so to help me just visualize this at this point, I'm going to do the same thing we've kind of been doing with some of our other sketches, and that is I'm going to just hatch in anything that I have already constructed that is on the right face. Okay. Let's see. I want to sketch in this diagonal. Which is going from halfway, which we've already found, which is right here. And it goes up to this corner, but this is on just this face. But what I can do is I can find where the halfway point is of this surface. So I'm looking like that same kind of angle exists right here. I can walk. I've got this. I can go to the halfway point. That is halfway. That's halfway. Come up to that angle right there, draw a line towards my left vanishing point from that point, which essentially, looking at it here, is this. It's a point that's out here in space, but I'm drawing a blue line that excuse me, not a blue line, I'm drawing a line from that point way off into space towards my left vanishing point. And if I go to the very center of my cube, which I can find by kind of coming here, like I'm looking at a quadrant on the ground plane right there, and I draw that from that quadrant straight up, vertical, where it intersects the line that we just drew from here over, should be this point right here, where everything begins to converge. You could also draw a line from there over to there. It's really starting to come together, and I'm starting to see where maybe some of my accuracy may be slightly off. Because this probably is going to be parallel with that line as it is with that line, going up to that corner. This is this line right here. This is this line right here. And so now I need to construct and find these points in space. So one thing I can do to find this point on the opposite side of my cube, I can draw up to here and draw over towards the left vanishing point until it intersects that, and then draw straight down vertical, and then carry this point over to meet that last line that I drew over there vertical. So I've got the point somewhat like that, and that is the mirror image of that point. So I can draw it straight down. I don't know if I'm going to have something else that's getting in the way of that. I guess this would go all the way over to there. This will actually intersect with the other part that's going to come down. So it's going to be some kind of angle coming down like that. How do we find that? What that is it's going to be this point, and that point, and that point is, if I understand this drawing correctly, yeah, it's going to be right there, which is a quarter of the way down and a quarter of the way over. So I have my quarter. Remember, this is a quarter from earlier. I can draw that back till it meets this back point, and then I can draw that point straight down vertically. And then I want to go a quarter of the way down, which I'm going to guesstimate this here. There's a quarter of the way down, drawn over convergence towards the left vanishing point. Let's see, and I brought that back to there and straight down, and this over. So I think somewhere in here, those will come together, and then I'd see a little bit of that face right there. So here's where I'm going to make some just slight tweaks with straight edge. I'm trying to add some line weight to this. This is fine. The two lines that I really wanted to fix were this one and this one. This one needed a little bit of tweaking as well. this should really clean this drawing up. Let's see, where else would I see an edge? There's kind of an intersection edge right there where those two surfaces meet. I think those two should line up, so let's tweak that just a little bit. I think that's just a fun shape.